There's a lot of spicy Xbox rumors. Let's dig in. I woke up this morning to a bunch of emails and DMs and Twitters and everything else, which is honestly a great thing. Just poking at a bunch of different Xbox rumors. We're talking everything from new consoles to new acquisitions, and so I am just going to try to break down a bunch of them here. And it is Sunday, and I actually completely rebuilt this podcast box, and so I needed a reason to test out all the audio and video setup, and so, well, here we are. And let's just dive in. The first one up is a new trademark filed by Microsoft at the end of December, and it is kind of blowing up. Everybody is going, is this a new slim Xbox Series console? Okay, specifically, the trademark is Xbox Series XS, not X Series X, not Series X, Series XS. I personally believe that this trademark is just a holding trademark and they don't plan to use it. Here is the biggest reason why. Can you imagine the massive amount of confusion if Microsoft comes out with a new console, be it a slim version or whatever, that is called the XS? Because that would be very hard to differentiate between the Series X and the Series S. You tell your mom or whatever, hey mom, go buy a Series X, and she goes there and sees a Series XS and a Series X and a Series S. It's going to be way too confusing. I personally think that Microsoft just is getting this trademark, getting it in the books so that nobody else can try to take it. I don't think anybody else would be, crazy enough to try to go up against Microsoft and claim this trademark as their own. But this very much feels like, hey, we're just getting this trademark, putting it in the books, and we're never going to use it. Because if they're going to come out with a slim version, it doesn't really make sense to call it an XS. Like that would just be crazy, and they would be doing themselves a massive disadvantage in the marketing materials if they did that. Which Microsoft has been known to do some crazy marketing, so maybe that will shake out. But I really don't think that is the case. I really don't. I think this is just a holding thing. The next patent that sort of piqued the interest of the internet, if you will, is a new VR controller showed up, and I say new in quotations because it's not really new. So we saw a VR controller pop up, and I got a bunch of questions because we now seeing Flight Sim is coming to the Xbox in the summer, Xbox Series S and X in the summer. We also know that Microsoft just announced VR support for the PC, and so people saw this controller and they're like, hey, this is going to be the one for the Xbox, and this is going to be great. Well, here's the problem, is that original patent, or the original peripheral that Microsoft patented for, I believe was filed back in around 2017, somewhere in that timeline. This is not a new patent. It might have been just updated. I don't even know where it actually started from. I got a bunch of Twitter messages about it. It looks like the news post that originally said that this was an Xbox VR controller has been deleted from the internet. And so if you see that controller in it, I don't think I have one sitting here. Or do I? Oh yeah. So kind of looks like this. I didn't even put that together. But the VR patent looks almost exactly like this. And so it's not for Xbox. This is for Microsoft's mixed reality headsets. Now, that's not saying that these cannot be used on the Xbox. Like, Microsoft could have, if they really wanted to, make that actually happen. And I'm not saying that VR isn't coming to the Xbox, but the patent that looks exactly like this controller here, which is a mixed reality controller, is not specifically designed for the Xbox or is a part of the Flight Sim announcements that we had heard in the past couple days. So there you go. If you see this patent floating around, it's not the one you're looking for. Here's a really interesting one, though, and this is like less rumor and more fact. We just don't know the actual title yet. Is that Game Pass is going to be getting another AAA or Quad A title coming back. Now, Microsoft tweeted out from their Game Pass account that says, hey, the title that everyone was really sad left is coming back, and we don't know the name yet. A lot of speculation is like Red Dead Redemption, somewhere around like that quality, maybe GTA. Is GTA left yet? Anyways, those big name titles are going to be coming back, or at least one of them is, which is really interesting for a multitude of reasons. One, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, that's just obviously a very good thing to be happening. But on the other hand, it's interesting from a business perspective that if a third party, meaning not Microsoft, had a really popular title that, launches a Quad A and then kind of fell from limelight and goes back into Game Pass, gets a nice boost, and then falls back down, and then as soon as it's back in Game Pass, gets another big boost. Like, think of the business model here from different vendors. It really starts to build up that Game Pass isn't just sort of a thing. It's like an actual business marketing mechanism for these titles. And the fact that it would go into Game Pass, and I'm sure Microsoft probably has some sort of agreement that says, hey, it has to be in there for a certain amount of time. Like, you can't put it in for 48 hours or something like that. But it definitely makes sense from vendors to start thinking about, hey, later in life, we need to put more titles into Game Pass because that boosts those sales over the long term, and that's obviously a good thing. So there's a lot of fundamental business mechanics that I still haven't fully figured out yet, from a numbers perspective, about how well Game Pass boosts those old titles. But very clearly, Microsoft and the third-party developers are seeing positive correlation between bringing titles in and out of Game Pass and additional sales. So it's just something to keep an eye on. We'll probably be learning here very, very soon what that title is, or titles potentially, but it's definitely going to be happening. The next big rumor that is fluffing about is Microsoft is going to be buying the developers behind the studio who built Flight Sim. That is a big rumor. Microsoft obviously still has yet to close the Bethesda acquisition, which Microsoft has said will happen in 2021, but it has not happened yet. And are they out shopping for more? Well, the answer is definitive. We already know that they're out shopping for more, but understanding which studios Microsoft is going to buy is a very difficult process, because here's a perfect example. So let's say they're going to go buy the developers who built Flight Sim, which Flight Sim, by the way, is a phenomenal game doing very good things for Microsoft. They're, so far from what I have heard, they're very pleased with how well that title has been adopted, and they're looking at the longevity of the platform, and they're very optimistic about it, which is a good thing, which is a very good thing. But the acquisitions are so hard to lock down, because let's say Microsoft walks into their office like, okay, we'll give you $10 million for your studio, and they're like, nah, we want 20 million, and they're like, nope, we're done, and they just walk away. These things fall apart overnight, and for various dumb reasons. But we do know that Microsoft is absolutely on the market, or out there buying studios left and right, trying to build up Game Pass, which Game Pass is the major catalyst that is changing for Microsoft. I can't tell you how happy Microsoft is and how aggressive they are going with this. Microsoft's strategy with Game Pass very much reminds me of their mid to late 90s sort of very aggressive approach to pushing people out of the way, to make sure that they have a stake of the pie. Because let's think of it this way. Doing some rough math here, there are about 1.3 billion, that's B with a billion, mobile gamers. 1.3 billion. Now, last generation, we're talking PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, sold, and I'm ballparking here, somewhere around 250 million consoles. While 250 million is a lot, it's a fraction of 1.3 billion mobile gamers. So what does Microsoft want to do? Well, they want to own the Netflix of gaming. I know that analogy comes up so often, but Microsoft is very serious about it, because they want to be the place that is known to have the best games, the most games, and the high quality games too. And so that leads into the next rumor of Ubisoft bringing Uplay to Game Pass. Now, this is a really interesting rumor, and I think there is more fact here than fiction based on what I have heard. Now, I don't know if this is exactly going to be happening, but we've already seen EA Play come into Game Pass. Microsoft went to EA, and they were able to ink that deal, which means Microsoft has a business model that makes sense, because obviously EA looked at the metrics and said, hey, yeah, this makes sense for us. Let's put the games in. Let's see how this plays out. And Microsoft proved that model works, at least initially. The fact that we're seeing big titles, potentially like Red Dead Redemption, coming back in proves once again that there's significant value in having your title in Game Pass, at least for a period of time, which leads into the Ubisoft Uplay coming to Game Pass. I would be surprised. Let me put it this way. I would not be surprised if this does happen at this point, based on some of the musings that I have heard. I don't know definitively that it is going to happen, but it feels like it's got a good possibility of at least being some plausibility to that information, just poking around the neighborhood, if you will. And this is part of Microsoft's very aggressive stance. Remember, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, some of his compensation is defined directly on the number of Game Pass subscribers. Keep in mind, it's not tied to Game Pass revenue yet. It's tied to Game Pass subscribers. Right now, Microsoft is trying to grow that platform as aggressively as possible. And I don't know for a fact, but I would think that being cash flow positive on that platform isn't necessarily the primary concern. The primary concern right now is making it a known name in the industry, much like Netflix, making sure that it has the best games that they can possibly do, and making sure that it is available everywhere, and then growing the platform like crazy. So Game Pass, I know we've talked about a lot here, is going to get more aggressive in 2021, and I think Ubisoft joining that, at least in some capacity, is going to be a big deal, and it's going to kind of solidify that EA Play model, which is Microsoft's next big play. Because yes, getting individual titles is one thing, but inking streaming services, again, like EA Play, like Uplay, is going to be a big deal. It's a very big deal for Microsoft, and they are trying to do this because, hey, you sign Uplay, you get all those games in the catalog rather than just one or two dipping in and out at a time. So there's more truth to that than rumor, I believe, at this point, based on my knowledge. But we will see what happens in the long term. Again, business agreements can take very long time to materialize, and they may not always happen overnight. So don't be alarmed if this doesn't happen in like the next 3 weeks or something like that. So there you go, guys. Those are some of the big rumors that were just flooding between basically Christmas and New Year's, and I needed to test out the camera, and so we did all that. And so make sure you hit that subscribe and like button and bell and all that other stuff so that we start off 2021 excellently, and you have a good day, and I will have a good whatever. That was a weird ending.